All right, guys, in today's video adventure, we're going to find out how you can deploy your Node.js app to a public production server called Railway. And it's free, right? I mean, with a limited amount of usage. You don't have to pay any credit cards, enter any credit card information or anything. So you're going to get a URL you can put on your LinkedIn or your resume to show off your project, which is pretty cool. So to make this work, first of all, you must have a GitHub account. And I'm assuming you do have a GitHub account from previous classes. If you don't, ping me on Slack. I'll talk you through how to get it going, but it's pretty simple. So just make sure you're able to log on to github.com. And then the first thing we're going to do here is make a project. We're going to make a repository. So step one is we're going to make a repository in our GitHub, right? So new. And I'm going to stick with my established naming conventions here. So call it whatever you want. And keep it public. Now git ignore, this is very important because when you make a Node.js application and you do npm install Mongoose and Express, you're going to pull down hundreds of files from npmjs.com. You don't want to be replicating them in your GitHub because the end user who gets your code is going to do their own npm install. So we're going to say git ignore, and it already has a prepared template to know what it should ignore for Node. So let's go and set that. And let's set a README file here. And license, I don't know, just make it MIT or something. And now go ahead and say create repository. And now let's initialize, let's give our repository something to work with. So edit. This project demonstrates creating a Node application locally in Visual Studio Code. Synchronizing it to github.com. And then deploying it via some DevOps practices via a CI/CD pipeline, deploying it to Railway. All right, so we'll commit that change. Now, we need to connect our cloud github.com to our local file system so we can develop our work locally, and then we can push it up to GitHub, and then we're going to create a project on Railway, and we're going to hook it up so with the processes of continuous integration, continuous deployment pipeline. Every time you push a change, or you can be several team members all committing to the same GitHub repo, whenever anybody commits to your team's GitHub repository, it'll automatically be pushed to production on railway.com. Not instantly, but within about 2 minutes or so, depending how busy their server is. So let's go over here to our repository, and let's go over here to the green button and say get the git clone URL, which is right there. Now let's go to Visual Studio Code and make our project. So I already have an empty directory called lab_railway deploy. It's actually spelled wrong, but that as well. I guess I can fix the spelling. And select, whoops, was the file. I'm just going to leave the spelling incorrect, won't hurt anybody. And now we'll say select folder. And actually, I have a bunch of files from before. I thought I deleted all of these. So I should go ahead and delete them so I can show you this fresh. Yeah, I didn't clear out the directory. And now I can go and correct the spelling. And now I can go and open Visual Studio Code. Now, before we do anything else, we have to clone our cloud repository down to local. So let's go and do that. So I'm going to open a terminal. And I'm going to say git clone. And I'm going to get that URL that I got from GitHub. Right, so here in my repository, I'm going to say code and HTTPS, and there's my clone URL. Now, my GitHub credentials are already cached in my operating system, so the first time you do this, you might be challenged to enter your GitHub user ID and password. Just go ahead and do that. If you have any problems, ping me on Slack. Now look, here it made a directory, and that directory is the same as the name of our GitHub repository. And you're going to do all that work in that directory. Very, very important, or your CI/CD won't work. So I'm going to change directory here in my terminal. Men's Clothing Emporium. That's just going to be the example of the project that I'm making. All right, now I'm going to proceed to set up my node project, right? So what do? npm init. Do you remember what that does? It just sets up your package.json. And there it is in my project directory. And now let's start playing with our new Git skills, which is a category of skills in IT called DevOps. So first of all, I have to well, actually, no, I don't need to initialize my repository because I already did git clone. So I'm going to say git add dot. That means everything. That means I now have an unstaged change, a new file I made called package.json. See, if we go over here, we're not going to see it there because it hasn't been pushed up yet. So git add dot. And now it has been staged, but we still need to bring it under version control by doing commit. Well, actually, it's under version control. It's just not at a committed level. So we'll say git commit -m and then some message. And now we need to push it up to the cloud, right? Up to the github.com. So we'll say git push -u and then origin main because that's our main branch that we're in. I'm not going to go too much into the mechanics of Git and GitHub unless people ask about it. We want to spend our time primarily on Node.js application development. However, at work, you're going to need to know how to do this stuff, and we don't want you to start learning it your first day on the job. Right? Give you something to talk about in your job interview that you've had some exposure to stuff like this. So now we'll go ahead and push. And now we see that the change we made locally is available on the server. And similarly, if we try making a file here, let's just try making some file. Let's call it test. And commit. And now if we go back to our local premises, our local file system, and we say git pull, we now see that test is available here. So that demonstrates that we can keep our cloud and local synchronized. Now everything we make after this is going to go in this project directory. And because we have git ignore, node modules file are not going to be pushed up because why bother? If another user were to pull down your code, they would do npm install and they would get Mongoose and everything they need directly from npmjs.com. All right, so we're going to start making a little application here just to demonstrate observing its operation on Railway. So I'm going to do npm install, and I guess I need .env because we don't want to push our credentials up to GitHub. And we're going to need express, nodemon, mongoose. Anything else? There might be, if there's anything else I've forgotten, I'll go back and add it later. So first of all, we're going to make our app and get it tested and running locally. So join me and do that. Your app code, I mean, if you want, you can make another one. Doesn't really matter what you make, just get some code in there. So if you go to our deploy a node app to Railway lab book, at the very bottom here, I have some code we can work with. Now, some of you might have jumped ahead and figured it out that my Node app is going to be talking to MongoDB Atlas. But if I'm not pushing my .env file to GitHub to be pushed to Railway, how is Railway going to know what my credentials are? We're going to see later that we can put that configuration variables. That's a well-known problem, right? Everybody deals with that. So we're going to see that we can put our key variables like our Mongo URL, we can store them directly in Railway just to get around that problem. So anyway, for right now, there's our project structure. So we're going to make index. We've already got package.json. Let's go and get index.js. And do put your require.env right up at the top. If you put it further down, it's not going to work. So just, I'll talk about later why that is if you're curious. Has to do with JavaScript's variable hoisting dynamic. But for right now, just grab that. Oh, you know, I forgot body parts. All right, I'm just going to go and run this again because I don't want to run into that problem later. Yeah, I think I forgot body parser in EJS. All right, I should be pretty good now. Yeah, I've got them all. And we're going to use templating language, so you need EJS as well. Oh, actually, I put EJS there. Why didn't it get sucked down? Anyway, the first time I didn't see it, but I see it now, so it's all good. All right, let's carry on. Let's make index.js, taking care to put it in our project directory. And for right now, because we're not primarily working on Node application development, we're demonstrating some DevOps skills in terms of pushing it to a production server. So we'll just go ahead and copy the code over. And let's make a directory called views, where we're going to put index.ejs. And let's check all those files wound up in the right place. Yep, there's my views directory. There's my index.ejs. Whoops. Yeah, see what I say? Things don't, when you use those smart icons, things don't work very well. So we're going to go and move that. Although that does look like it's in views. So cd views. There's index.ejs. Whoops, I think I just named my other file the wrong way. Index.js. All right, so if you made that same mistake, join me and fix it. All right, now I guess we're where we need to be. Yeah, index.js, package JSON, views. Yeah, so that's good. We got all that. All right, cool. And I got to get my .env in there as well. So before I forget, and my database is going to be called Men's Clothing Emporium. Because the ladies get all the fun when it comes to shopping, right? Nobody gives us guys enough airtime, so hopefully we can fix that up here. Have I forgotten anything? To mention my... It should be good. Well, we'll try running it, but it doesn't run, then we'll come back and fix it, but we should be good for right now. So, let's try running it. Yeah, like obviously test and make sure it's running locally before you CI/CD it up to production. Yeah, my nodemon periodically has some problems here. I'm not going to chase down that right now. I'll just run it under regular node. Oh, because I'm in the views directory, it's not finding that file. Okay, let's try again. node1 index.js. Okay, now good. All right, I think I'm running on port 3000, so let's go and test that. So there is what my website looks like. Let's go and use Compass to see if our records are getting pushed up to MongoDB Atlas. And so far, I haven't made any records. And we know that with JSON, when you specify a database, when you connect to it, until you put at least one document in there, it's not going to show up. So here, oh, there's the menswear. There's that from before. Yeah, anyway, I guess it just got created because I erased it before. So anyway, let's go and put some records there. And then it's going to round trip and pull back from the database, and whatever you enter, it's going to show it up here. All right, pretty good. So we know our app is working. Now we can push it up to production. All right, so there's our collection products, and there's a couple of JSON documents, so that's pretty cool. That's working. All right, now, next step. We're going to go and create an account on Railway. And I don't know if, I don't think we did that yet. We did get ourselves set up on GitHub. Now with Railway, and just some duplication here because I've taught this in a few other classes this week, but better to say it too many times than not enough. So sign up for railway.com with your github.com credentials, email, and password. Why? Well, you're going to see that Railway is mega cool. It is. It automates the process. It basically, because this is not a DevOps class. If it were, I would be teaching you how to make a CI/CD pipeline using Git actions. But here we want to keep our focus on writing the code. So we're going to let the tool manage our CI/CD pipeline for us. So go to railway.com. Now, I already have an account. I don't want to make another nonsense account. I don't want to clutter up other people's systems with nonsense. So I'll just show you what, I'll go to a browser that I think I'm not logged in with yet. And then you're just going to go here and continue with GitHub and put in your GitHub information, right? So you're going to sign yourself up there and authorize Railway app. That's very important. I will leave that to you to go and do that. Any questions or problems, ping me on Slack. So now I'm going to assume that we have we have a Railway account. So let's go and see what we do. Oh, by the way, another thing we need to do first, because Railway, we're going to see how to connect it to our GitHub repository, but I'm not sure. I don't think I have yet pushed my newest changes from local up to GitHub. So let's go and do that. So make sure you save and close all your stuff. And once again, git add dot, take all of your new files which are not yet staged, they're not in Git staging, and stage them. And now we need to make a committed level which is a collection, right? It's a bookshelf, it's a box of files which work together to make a working version of your product. So that is git commit. It's all in your lab book. Git commit and then give it some meaningful name. And now we have a committed level called by that name, and now we can do git push up to our main branch. And now we should see all of our changes up in GitHub. So let's check. Yep, there is all of our stuff, right? So package.json, views, index.js, right? It has all the latest stuff. .env is not here. We don't want .env to be here, so that's okay. Because we don't want our credentials, available for other people to go and steal them. So I think the next thing we need to do now, in the course of replicating between, well, there is one other thing you're going to need, which is your personal authentication token. Again, it didn't challenge me for it because I already have it hashed in my credentials, but you're going to need something when you, the first time you try to replicate, it's going to say, what is your password? And that is not your GitHub password, that's your personal authentication token. So let's go ahead and generate that now. So let's go to our settings, right? Go to your profile picture. Right, profile picture settings. And then here go to, this is all in your lab book, by the way, so you can go back and see it there as well. Developer settings. And now we want to make a personal authentication token. So just stick with classic and generate new token and generate new token classic and then give it some meaningful name. Let's go by date. So I'll call it June 4 Railway Demo. And I just, at work, you should probably, well, follow whatever your organization's policies are, but I'm going to say no expiration for right now. And just set the first couple of things here, repo, workflow, write. We don't really need to delete anything. Oh, I don't know, just set it. It's not going to hurt you. And then I'm going to go ahead and choose all of them. That's enough for now, I guess. And then generate token. Now, this is the only time you're ever going to see this token. So save it, I don't know, somewhere in Dropbox or email it to yourself because you're going to need that. Now, you did not see me using my PAT because it's already cached in my GitHub credentials. But when you get to that point, follow what it says in your lab book. Any questions, ping me on Slack. We can even jump into a quick Zoom call to step you through it. So I'm going to save this. I don't really need this for anything, but I'll save it anyway. It's out of habit. All right, so this guy is all set up. He's got his ENV. He's running, right? We observed it running, so that's fine. All right, now that we have our app code properly pushed up to GitHub repository, let's connect that GitHub repository to a Railway project. Right, so Railway is pretty good. You don't need to enter any credit card or anything. And if you do run out in the course of playing around with it, you could just pay $5 and buy, 500 credits, which will keep you going forever. If you don't want to do that, just use another email and make another Railway account, right? So they're pretty friendly to students. So railway.com, I'm logged in here with my GitHub. There's me. And now we want to deploy a new project. So because when we signed up for our account initially, we authorized, we told our GitHub that if somebody named Railway comes and asks you, say, yeah, they're okay, they're cool, we know them, let Railway have access to your GitHub projects. So because I did that, I now see my projects here. And if it's not working for you, again, just ping me in Slack, right? You can go and set it up later on as well in developer settings. But I'm going to select this repository as being the one I want to deploy. And now the CI/CD is running. Pretty cool. It's initializing, it's building. Deployment is in process. Yay. Could take, I don't know, a minute or 2 minutes. Go and get some coffee. Building. It's actually making a Docker image. Now, my plan is in class on Thursday, I'm going to show you this and some Git stuff, and then I'll show you a little bit of Docker and Dockerization on Friday. It's not yet in the course outline, it will be in future classes, but employers are looking for skills in DevOps and Docker, so I'm going to show you a little bit about how to make a Docker image. It's actually building a Docker image for you on its server. Yay, very cool. So we should be good now. Our deployment is successful. Yay. All right, so following our instructions here, so we made a new project in Railway. We correctly set up our CI/CD pipeline. We connected Railway to the GitHub repository we want to use. It did the rest, right? I mean, we could see if this was a DevOps class, we'd see how to do that by ourselves, but as developers, we're content to let the operations team handle that. That's what's going to happen at work. So now we're going to go to our Railway project dashboard. We're going to click on our service because the service is a program which is running and available for you to go and access via web browser. So there's our service. Deployment successful, yay. Unexposed service currently. In the right panel, click on the Settings tab, Domain section. All right, so in this case, we're going to Settings. We're creating a domain. And it's going to take several seconds to work. And now this is going to be our URL. So let's try doing that. Drop that into your notes. So you can copy it from there. All right, so I'll copy my URL, go to another browser. Okay, it could be because it's still deploying, but that should work. See, it's spinning around. It's not giving an error. It's still waiting for something. So, if you have your own domain, you could hook it up here, where this is not a networking class. We're not going to get into that. Yeah, that should be working. Of course, it's actually right here in the logs. It's saying it crashed because it can't connect to the Mongo database, which makes sense because we did see we needed to put our credentials in there. So let's go and do that. So we're going to go to our project on Railway and find the variables tab, right? So go and do that in your project in the Railway dashboard. That's actually good that it crashed in that case. If it hadn't have crashed, that would indicate something's wrong. So there's our project. It randomly assigns it these little silly names. So Keen Mercy. And there's the details of my deployment. So let's go and give it our Mongo creds. All right, so you're going to go to your project, right? So once again, taking it right from the beginning, dashboard, and then I rename my project to Menswear Emporium. Variables, and I'm going to now here make a new variable. So I'll call that Mongo URI. Mongo URL. And in this case, the value is now, bear in mind, this is the one thing that we're not putting through GitHub CI/CD because we don't want your GitHub or Google Maps API or Amazon Web Services or whatever it is to be available in a public repository. There are bad people who go around stealing stuff like that. I guess they're bored for something better to do. All right, we should be okay now, I suppose, I hope. Give it another spin. So now it's building, right? The CI/CD is kicking in automatically. We don't have to do any special thing as soon as you make a change. Now it's done, so it's deploying. Deployment successful, yay. Let's try this again. So Menswear Clothing Emporium, so-and-so Railway app. Whoops, that's not what I wanted. I wanted my URI. That's what we're talking about. So we now have a production capable URL demonstrating your DevOps skills. You can put it for your project. You're going to be required to do this, in fact. And I would strongly encourage you to set up a little portfolio website for yourself. Like LinkedIn is a good place because employers are going to see it. If anybody wants, I can go over that more later. So And let's just double check that that information is being pushed into into the, I mean, we know it is because it's being cycled back there. However, just because we're a little bit nervous about things, let's go and do that. And there's our dress slacks, great. All right, guys, so I'm going to cover this in class on Thursday. Friday, we'll take the other approach. This is the GitHub avenue. There is also a Docker Hub avenue, which we'll get to later. But I hope if you go and play with this stuff, very cool. And now you have the ability to, and this works for a lot of other things, right? Not just Node. It works for a J2EE and PHP and many other things as well. But that's cool. I was very excited because several years ago there were like Heroku and Bluehost and stuff, but then they all switched over to requiring a credit card, and this is something I did not enter a credit card at any point. So I think that's mega cool. All right, going to wrap up the video. We'll see you in class later. I will kick all these links out for you. Oh, actually, one other thing I wanted to show you. We can also push our code to npmjs.com. So let's take a couple of seconds to do that. So I'm going to go here back to Visual Studio Code. And I'm going to do npm publish, npm publish. Right, so your package JSON is properly set up. That's very important. npm publish. Whoops, what did I do wrong here? Let me go and fix this. Oh yeah, I forgot that I'm not logged in this session. So I have to do npms, meaning npmjs.com user. So press enter to open in the browser. And hopefully I'm going to remember my password and all that stuff. Which I don't. Actually, I think it's Peter Sigurdsson too. Because my original Peter Sigurdsson username got, I don't know, it got locked out or something. I'm just going to go and just take a minute to get a coffee. I just have to go and remember my password here. Hang on. All right, this should be my right password. Let's give it a spin. For security, we've sent you a one-time. Okay, so I'm just going to go and get that now. All right, let's see if we're good now. So now I should be logged in, and I can go and check other packages that I promoted as well later on. Right, so those are some other packages I've kicked up in previous classes. So let's go back to our command line. So I guess I'm logged in. Let's try npm publish again. So now it is publishing it to whatever name we set here. So I should now find that I have a package available there. Let's go and check. I don't know. I think it's pretty cool. It's something, you know, if you're into this stuff, you should know the details about how this works. Whoops. Not that. All right, hang on. Oh, right there. So that means that you can now do npm install men clothing emporium, and you can install this in your own Node.js environment, right? So if you want to try playing with doing that, go for it. Aside from that, that's all I can really think of to say for right now. So we'll see you in class later.